Welcome to another Monday episode of the Chad Prather Show. I had a decision that I could make today. I could either get blackout drunk and come on here and just bloviate about things I know nothing about, or we could go deeper into your mind, and I wanted to choose the latter. We're going to go down into your mind. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop chatting for a minute if you're on the live chat. Just save your hellos and all of that stuff. Just hang tight. I want you to listen to me for about 5 minutes. And I want to ask you a question. I want to start with a question. Why do you think, in your mind, why do you think that subverting the dominant paradigm is so important to the progressive woke? We've talked about the subverting the dominant paradigm numerous times. I don't want to assume anything. So a paradigm, if you don't know, it's a network of theories and thought patterns through which you see the world. All right? It's how you see the world. Now, occasionally, we all need to have a paradigm shift. Once upon a time, society saw smoking cigarettes as an acceptable and even favorable social practice. That was a paradigm. That's the way we saw the world. But medical findings subverted the dominant paradigm, and there was a shift. That was a good thing, right? Well, dominant paradigms are shaped both by the community's cultural background and by the context of the historical moment. So why does the world of the woke fight so hard to shift every viewpoint or paradigm that is widely held and acceptable? Based on their rhetoric, their logic, and their actions, one would have to assume that if it's a widely held belief, that it must inherently be evil. It's got to be changed. Now, we collectively have an innate sense of morality that we share as humans. By and large, we all know that certain things are right and certain things are wrong. And if you buck against that moral sense, both by nature as a rebellious spirit, or by nurture within a recursive and self-devouring sphere of influence, whether it's your family or your friends, an echo chamber, to put it simply, your unstated goal in life must necessarily become to not only not do what the moral institutions suggest you do, but in fact to tear them down as evil. Now, in short, I think it's about being able to feel better about yourself when something deep inside of you is telling you otherwise. And you know that what you're doing and saying has a level of wrongness about it, but you need to tear down anything that reminds you of that. Now, the right is not immune to this phenomenon, those of us in the conservative circles, but we have the advantage of conservatism, which is literally wanting to slow down the pace of societal change on our side. So the left tends to migrate more towards this subverting the dominant paradigm faster. So I want you to imagine, I'm going to get deep with you for a second, try to. I want you to imagine that every mind, your mind, my mind, is bisected into two levels. Now, this is a gross oversimplification of how the mind works, but it's going to serve for our purposes here. Now, the upper level of the mind, or the surface area of the mind, let's say, is concerned with the information we juggle every day. That's everything from what we're going to eat to when we need to go to the bathroom, what we're going to watch on TV, breathing, whatever. Now, increasingly in our time, the overlapping interests of politics and morality are a part of that because we've got this slanted 24-hour news cycle and omnipresent social media platforms constantly bombarding our mind. And this is important because politics is derived from morality. They're like Russian nesting dolls, and neither of them particularly belongs in that upper level of thinking. But that's where it lives now. Now, the lower level, that deep level of your mind, that's where we turn perception inward. And we compare the things we see in various areas of conversation to our own inner moral compass. Now, you can have a sense of pragmatism at this lower level, but for most people, it doesn't occupy the whole space. What's there or should be is that moral foundation. Not just the things that society declares are moral or immoral. Those change a little bit over time. But your own innate sense of morality, it leaks into the upper level, but it originates in the lower. This is the realm of critical thinking, folks. This is what we've lost. It's the place where humans who are truly, intellectually, and probably spiritually as well, the most fulfilled, they ask what may be the most important question in the human experience. Am I wrong? Now, you should be asking yourself that question every single day. That is the element for critical thinking. Am I wrong? Now, in a leftist regime of the mind, that lower level seems to be locked off so that only the upper level exists. That's what George Orwell called the orthodoxy of the party. And I would call it the orthodoxy of an entire ideology. It removes the lower level and it subsumes the upper one. Now, do you want to know how you can label the murder of an unborn baby and gender modification of a child as health care? That's orthodoxy of the ideology. Do you know why men can enslave other men and it doesn't bother their conscience? It's the orthodoxy of the ideology. Do you know why you can hate someone in your heart for the very simple fact that they don't have a paper mask on their face while sitting on an airplane? Why? Because it's the orthodoxy of the ideology. You have locked off your access to the critical thinking space of your mind. And here's where it gets even crazier. Once you've got an entire society that has had a mass lobotomy performed over and over again, it becomes the new normal. And it's now possible to separate the upper level into two levels. So you feel just like a normal person with that upper and lower level, but meanwhile, your lower level is no longer the level of critical thinking. You're doing it on the surface level. So now what you call critical thinking is an upper level process that's eliminated all of the innate critical tools and left it in the basement of your mind where they can't be accessed anymore. You've shut it off. Your conscience has been seared. Your heart has been hardened. Your mind has grown calloused. You might still have some or much of that innate moral sense that leaked up from the lower level, but the critical thinking skills, they're gone. They're just gone. And because you now have only a weak foundation of innate morality and no critical thinking with which to process it, somebody else has to do that critical thinking for you. Now, in this case, an ephemeral ideology and the word salad of its strongest adherents. So when Joe Biden says he's going to choose a female of color to either be vice president or Supreme Court justice, there should be bells and alarms and howling dogs that just go off in your conscience telling you that that reasoning is wrong. It's terrible thinking. But you've sealed off that critical thinking part of your mind and ideology has taken over. Now let me flip the script. What happens when somebody criticizes Donald Trump? How often do you immediately rush to his defense without critically thinking before you speak and ask the question, am I wrong? It's the orthodoxy of ideology taking over. And once that becomes the so-called new word of God in your mind, well, you, my friend, have yourself a new religion of narrow-minded thinking. You might even call it woke. You might use the phrase red-pilled. Whatever you want to call it. Dogmatic, driven by tribalism, eager to tear down anything that goes against its core tenets. And the Bible says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I want you to think on these things, folks. Am I wrong? Chris and Mark, this has been the driving question of my life recently. And I'm looking at things. I always want to judge things. I don't want to just be a sounding bell or a clanging cymbal. When I do this show or when I get on my platforms or when I'm asked to speak somewhere, I don't want to just use the whistles, the dog whistles, to get people to go, that's right, that's right. No, I want you to think, folks. I want you to use that deep inner part of your mind and ask that question with everything. Am I wrong or am I doing what the masters have told me? See, here's the thing, and this is what I responded to on Twitter today. Caught a little shit for it, but that's okay, because that's what free thinkers get, is shit, especially from those who aren't thinking. Our enemies are not people with an R by their name or a D by their name. It's not Republicans, Democrats. It's not nationalities. It's not skin colors. It's not genders. It's not sexual orientations. It's not us against them. No. It's big government and their minions, the handlers, the puppet masters, the controllers, Big Brother versus the people. And they know that if they could keep the people divided, they could keep the people weak. So here we are arguing over our issues, our societal issues, our cultural issues, our political changes and differences and ideologies. And the masters love it because they know if they can keep the ants down in the hill warring with one another, that they can control the mound. So this has been on my heart, folks. I want you to seriously put some thought into where your brain is. Have you cut off that second level, that place deep down, that innate moral sense of right versus wrong? And are you a paradigm shifter? Because again, when you subvert the dominant paradigm, we're in trouble. When that dominant paradigm needs to exist. Now, see, it's not innately evil. That's what I was telling you a minute ago. It's not just because it's big doesn't mean it's evil. That may be. It may need to be torn down. There are some ways of thinking. And Chris, I was thinking about a title for this. We need to do something like, for this show, get rid of your stinking thinking. Just some ideas that are out there. And so obviously what I try to do on this show is I try to expose the stinking thinking, whether it's through a TikTok video or various other things. And man, all you got to do is turn on the news at any given time right now, and you're going to hear some real stinking thinking. I'm gonna give you some stinking thinking. Let's go in order of those clips for a minute. Let's just go in order and play what Biden says Americans don't understand.
Never forget what we've accomplished together so far. And by the way, the American people just trying to stay above water don't understand this. You tell them what the American Recovery Act was, they look at you like, what are you talking about?
There you go. You don't know. You're trying to keep your head above water. You don't know what's going on. You need to trust the government to bail you out. This American Recovery Plan, man. Come on, man. Don't you understand? We're trying to do these things for you, man. You look at us like you don't know what's going on because you don't know what's going on. That's the president of America, of the United States, telling you, you don't know. You don't know about your own life. Play the next clip.
Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin. I love, the Republicans saying it's Biden's gas pipeline. Biden said he's going to stop the Keystone pipeline, and I did. And that's the reason prices went up. Folks, let's get something straight here. The Keystone pipeline was 2 years away and had been 2% finished. Give me a break.
Give me a break. I mean, what happened to the guy who says, I'm not going to be like Trump. I'm going to take responsibility when I'm president. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to handle it. Now, it's Putin's inflation. See, they got to keep changing the narrative on you. They don't want you to think critically about any of this stuff. So just a couple of weeks ago, we were told that inflation was transitory. It was just going to be temporary, just getting over a hurdle, just like 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then we were told that there were other inflationary measures that were in place because this or that, and now it's another thing, and now it's on Putin. And the narrative over the last couple of weeks just keeps on changing. Just listen to what the White House says. They love to play the blame game. I had someone say to me this morning, they said, oh, yeah, I don't know where you live. Because I made this comment on Twitter. I said, it's not about R's versus D's. It's about people versus big government. I don't know where you live. Where I live, the government tries to keep me safe and healthy and fed and gainfully employed. My government's so altruistic and good. My government loves me. My government wants me to be happy and fat and prosperous. Yeah, what happened when they locked you down and deemed you non-essential and closed your business, masked you up, ordered you to stay at home, locked you away, and you lost everything? What happened then? What the hell happened yesterday when I stopped at a fuel pump and I had to do it twice because it limits out at $95 to fill up my vehicle, and I got to rerun the card to fill the thing all the way up? Oh, you should be driving a smaller car. I can drive whatever the hell I want to drive. I didn't say I couldn't afford it, but I know there's people out there who can't. And the fact that you believe that the government is there to take care of you, to treat you like a nursing baby, cradle to grave, hatch, match, and dispatch. They're going to be in charge of everything, every tenant facet of every decision you make. And when you look at the gas pump and you go, shit, there's Joe Biden going, you people just don't understand, man. Those of you out there keeping your head above water, don't you know we're out here trying to save you? We're trying to save you. No, they're not. They weren't under Trump. They're not under Biden. They haven't been, ever. It's not what the government, we are so far away from what our founding fathers intended. And you think that we got it good. We don't. We're in trouble. We're screwed. This is the downfall. This is exactly the downfall that our founding fathers and the philosophers of the age in those days predicted. Here we are. You know why? We've cut off our minds and we've let somebody else tell us what to think. So what does current out-of-control inflation look like? Well, it looks like you're paying 47% more for fuel than a year ago. It looks like you're paying 41% more for the same used vehicle if you buy it this year versus last year. It looks like you're paying almost 10% more to feed your family. It looks like every dollar in your savings is worth less than it was a year ago. Hedge against the U.S. dollar by investing in something with real value, gold and silver. From Birch Gold. Precious metals have historically been a safe haven in times of inflation. And Birch Gold, they're the leader in converting IRAs and 401ks into tax-sheltered IRA backed by gold and silver. Thousands of satisfied customers with an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. Birch Gold can help you protect your savings. Text CHAD to 989898. Get a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation to get this info. Text CHAD 989898 to get your free info kit now. That's CHAD to 989898, and we will be right back. Man, oh man, oh man. This inflation thing, it's a mess. And there are some folks out there that are really hurting right now. We got to get some relief on this deal. And, I've posted several things. I like to go on social media and I like to post things just to get people talking. Just to get them talking. So I made the comment the other day about, wouldn't it be interesting? Now, I don't do it without being able to back up where I'm coming from. Sometimes I just put some random thoughts out there just to drive people crazy. And I put out there the other day, I said, now what if, what if Russia has been behind driving this narrative of the Green New Deal all along? What if our lovely communists that are in office in America, AOC and Bernie Sanders and so on and so forth, who love the Green New Deal, right? Like they've been pushing that thing. What if it already had some backings by people like Putin? And that's why Bernie ain't saying a damn thing on Russia right now. Nothing with this Ukraine thing going on. So I put that, I put out there and said, well, what if it's all kind of connected? What if Russia's been driving this narrative all along? Again, everything's Russia, right? We've been saying that since 2016. Russia, Russia, Russia. What if we put some blame where it might actually exist on Russia? And the reason they would do that is so that they keep pushing the Green Deal and green energy, climate stuff, that narrative in America. So guess who rises to the top as the energy leader for fossil fuels? Russia. Just a thought. Just sometimes people came at me, oh, that's a stretch. That's really a spin. Well, then I started sharing some articles and some letters between Congress people about the very same thing. This has been actually in question since back in 2017. People in our government have been asking these questions. But see, again, people don't read these things. So I gladly shared some of the government links of these letters that have been written dealing with this exact same thing. So I'm just saying, you can't have critical thinking and discussion unless you ask some uncomfortable questions. Now, the hypothesis, maybe it's off, maybe it's wrong. The conclusion may be wrong. But you got to ask some of these questions or you'll never get to the bottom of anything. Plain and simple. You're just not going to get to the bottom of it. So, the only sure thing we can truly trust in the world anymore, that we know will be there now and forever, is racism. That's it. That's all we can count on from now on. Racism, that is the rock upon which our faith rests right there. Everything is built off of racism. And of course, we were reminded of that just this past week with Jussie Smollett. Don't everybody know? This was all about, Jussie's attacker finally got justice. They sent him to jail. Of course, it was Jussie himself. But Jussie told attorneys that he was going to get a harsher sentence because he's black. Now, he got 150 days in jail. That's what, a couple months, 4 or 5 months, he's going to be, 5 months in jail, maybe. So here's a guy who cost the city of Chicago millions of dollars, potentially risked other people's lives, race baiting narrative. Even the judge was like, you did nothing but sit on this stand for hours and perjure yourself. Just lie after lie after lie. And of course, he, said that he's not going to kill himself. He's not suicidal. And that no matter what happens, he's not a danger to himself. So let's play that clip.
You will pay restitution to the city of Chicago in the amount of $120,106. You are fined $25,000, which is the maximum fine. And you will spend the first 150 days of your sentence in the Cook County Jail. Do you have any questions?
No, I would just like to say to Your Honor that I am not suicidal. That's what I was about to say.
Okay.
I am not suicidal.
Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that. I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time. I am not suicidal.
Okay.
Yeah. Jail time. I mean, I didn't do nothing. Jail time. Okay, I'm going to take that. But I'm not suicidal. Now, when I heard that, my first thought is, here's a dude who had his ass whipped. I mean, he got the crap beat out of himself. He set the whole thing up in order to race bait and to look like a victim. So I'm like, this dude's going to go into the jail cell and hurt himself. Because he's that hell-bent on a narrative. I mean, you want to talk about lobotomy, where you just get away from, like, dude, this goes back to the earlier monologue that I said in the last segment. Jussie knows deep down, innately, what he did was wrong. But he's got to kill the narrative. He's got to kill the dominant paradigm. That is the way the entire world sees what went on. But he's got to hold on to it and kill that dominant paradigm. He's got to subvert it. So I was like, this dude's going to go in and hurt himself. If for nothing else, just to keep the race thing alive. Right? So now his brother has come out, right? It said, nah, look, he's not going to hurt himself.
Yeah, his brother is very interesting because his brother has come out, and I guess he realized that his Jussie is in a ward, and he's saying, why do you have him in a ward? And then come to find out that that's where they keep high-profile criminals.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, he's strong, he's not suicidal. But at the same time, Chad, help me understand this. If you're strong, I believe me and you are very spiritually strong. We have seen life at its worst, and we survived it, and that makes us stronger. It goes back to the thing of strong times make weak men, or whatever that is. But if this person is really that strong, this whole I'm not suicidal, is that just to tug at America's heart?
Well, I think that it is somebody who is trying to control the narrative. So they put him in the ward, right? Well, look, you went off screaming you're not suicidal, so they're going to make sure you're not. And because you're coming off a little crazy, Jussie. And the reason this is relevant, I understand we can make fun of this story, but the reason this is relevant is because this is an extreme example of that attacking the dominant paradigm, of saying, okay, we're going to continue with the narrative so hard until we just going to keep at it until you believe it. And so they put him in that ward over there, and I'm like, all right, so you basically are getting white collar privilege to get taken care of because of what you did. I mean, this is a slap on the wrist for what he did. But he's still going to paint himself out to be the biggest victim in this deal. When, dude, you had an amazing life, I guess. I mean, by all intents and purposes, you're on a hit TV show. You were making good money, I would think. Living a lifestyle that you liked. And you're still going to spin it and say, well, I'm going to get this thing because I'm black. Okay. All right. And speaking of Black Lives Matter, I'm anxious to see Glenn's special on Wednesday. Because Glenn's going to be dealing with this. Where'd all that money go to Black Lives Matter? Now, you were told that Black Lives Matter, like you had to, all these government entities, all of these companies, they were pouring money into Black Lives Matter. Where'd that money go? Where in the world did all that money go? Didn't go to the black community. I can tell you that. It didn't go to the black community. Where'd it go? Glenn's going to unpack that for you on Wednesday night. And after busting his chops a little bit last week, I figure I'd give him a little plug on that. But I'm anxious to hear, Chris. I'm anxious to hear on this thing because that's going to be very telling, folks. Very, very telling. And yep. We're going to see. We're going to see what's happening. The headlines, as you know, they're bad. And they're getting worse every day. There's no solutions in sight. Inflation has gone through the roof. The world's unraveling more and more by the minute. Anybody's guess what could happen next. What do you do to protect yourself and your family? You could do what I did. I did it again, actually, this morning. Go to mypatriotsupply.com. Get prepared today to get ahead of tomorrow's uncertainty. My Patriot Supply is the largest preparedness company in the country, providing millions of Americans with the survival supplies they need to tackle crisis with confidence. From months of emergency meals to water purification products, they'll have what you need to stay secure in shaky times. So stock up on mypatriotsupply.com before the panic sets in. Soon enough, the grocery shelves, they may be empty, but yours will not be. Fast shipping, it's going to come in unmarked boxes, discreet delivery. I want you to go to mypatriotsupply.com. I cannot stress this enough. mypatriotsupply.com, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Hey, literacy, am I right? Who needs it? Folks, a disturbing but not very surprising article came out in the New York Post the other day. The headline reads, "Young students have suffered alarming drops in reading skills during pandemic." Now, I want you to resist the urge to roll your eyes and say, well, no shit, Sherlock, but just hang on with me for a second because, yeah, all of us with a still functioning brain over here are not only aware of this problem, we saw it coming a mile away. We had the T-shirt printed up in advance. But as we like to do around here, I want to drill a little bit deeper down into the issue. Now, the article states that a new set of studies suggests that around a third of the youngest kids in school are behind on reading benchmarks, which is way higher than before the pandemic. Now, a week or so ago, we talked on this program about the CDC is actually lowering early childhood development milestones so they can essentially cover up for how awful the pandemic lockdowns have been for the little children. Now, I have to assume that it won't be long before they work to rewrite history on kindergarten students as well. And it'll be easy to do so since a whole bunch of them won't be able to even read that history. Now, according to the article, the study shows that, quote, for kindergarten students nationwide, the percentage of students at highest risk for not learning to read rose 8% during the pandemic, from 29% in the middle of the 2019-2020 school year to 37% in the middle of 21-22 school year, end quote. Now, as you might imagine, this effect trickles upward. It's the gift that keeps on giving, you might say. And it prompts me to repeat the question I just asked a minute ago. Literacy? Who needs it? That's a serious question. Now, we've said many times on this program that language is the vehicle that my mind drives to get to your mind, and that's absolutely true. Well, if I'm driving a broken-down Pinto that leaks oil and hasn't had a tune-up since the Carter administration, I'm a hell of a lot less likely to make it from the welcome mat in front of my mind to the welcome mat in front of yours, right? Now, look, surely those of us who are adults all know at this point that reading wasn't just some boring task that our teacher gave us to keep us busy so we wouldn't mutiny and take over the school, right? I mean, it wasn't just for that reason anyway. I mean, come on. Reading helps us develop critical thinking skills in life because reading expands the scope of what we can think about and how well we do it. Hell, fully half the value of a modern student reading Shakespeare is that you have no freaking clue what the guy's saying. And so you have to learn to contextualize. I don't know what Shakespeare's saying. Something about love or something dirty. But without expansion of the mind, there can be no real critical thinking. And without critical thinking, all of our communication with one another breaks down into meaningless and useless drivel. The kind of stuff that might be fun to engage in around the water cooler at work, but which in no way advances the general state of well-being of the country or society at large. Now, if you want my cynical take, it is far too late to shame the public education system into course correction. They've had their chance to shine, and even those of us who are against them wish they had done so, but they haven't. And it's time to move on. Folks, don't leave your kids on board the sinking ship. And make no mistake, that's exactly what the school system is right now. Maybe someday we'll level the whole thing and try again. And when that happens, I'll give a listen to their suggestions. Until then, though, I can hear the rivets dropping. I can see the ship starting to break in half next to the iceberg. And those eerily calm dudes in tuxedos are playing their last string quartet. Get your kids off the Titanic before she sinks, folks. Do it, do it, do it now. We're in trouble. Kids don't know how to read. We said in Baltimore, kids are graduating high school. What was it, like 60%, 70%? They don't know how to read. They're in high school. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to be able to think. Kamala Harris, come on. That's the vice president of the United States of America. I'm here. But like her mannerisms, like on the plane ride over, somebody was telling her, okay, there is a military term called a flank. And she's like, I'm here. I'm here on the northern flank. And then the other day, she's there with the president of Poland. They're asking about America taking in refugees. She starts cackling and says some American colloquialism about a friend in need is a friend indeed. She says that to the dude who's Polish. And he's like, okay, so he's got to answer the question about whether or not America is going to take in refugees. And we just sit back and look at this drivel, and we're like, oh, that's okay. No, this is how stupid we've become. That's a product of the public school system. And we're okay with it. We were okay voting for a guy who said, I'm just going to get me a vice president who's a woman and a person of color. Didn't matter if the difference between that woman and a cow chewing cud was the intelligent look on the cow's face. She's a moron. Golly. Hey, let me help you stop losing your hair.
I'm sorry, Chad. That's just wrong. We have to talk about that view because the view right now is calling you a racist.
I know they are. Okay. We're going to do that when we come back, though.
Yes.
Let's do Keeps right now. And I want to show you that thing from The View. I know you're sensitive about your hair loss. I've got great news for you. Keeps is going to get you covered. Listen, it's a genius deal. Keeps offers doctor-recommended, clinically proven, research-backed treatments to stop hair loss and improve hair growth. Keeps Physicians is going to help you select the right products and treatment for your specific condition and your hair goals. All Keeps treatment plans are delivered straight to your door at about half the cost of traditional pharmacy. Your plan comes with a full year of unlimited messaging so you can connect with your doctor about anything, anytime. And with Keeps, you get quality expert care without visiting the doctor's office or pharmacy. So if you want to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, just take better care of the hair you got. Keeps has you covered. Hair loss is gonna stop with Keeps, folks. I promise you. You're gonna get 50% off your first order. Go to keeps.com/loss. That's KEEPS.com/loss. Hang tight.
She went on to say that the U.S. is committed to helping refugees, but some on the right say that this was humiliating. Did you have a problem with any of the way she handled this, ladies? People are talking about it. I personally think if she was a guy, they would never say it because they also made fun of Hillary's laugh. Mm-hmm. But I don't see them making fun of Pence's laugh or any of the other guys.
What it is that they constantly question the qualifications of black women, and that's why people are saying that she's unprepared. And
I disagree. I think she's
a very disagree, but that's the truth of it. And so this is based in racism. This is based in misogyny. And we're talking about a woman that has extensive experience abroad, extensive experience as an attorney, extensive experience as the chief legal officer of one of our largest states in the country. And I think this is just much ado about nothing.
Yeah, she's had extensive experience abroad. Now, this is the same woman who said, I hadn't been to Europe either. Until a couple weeks ago, she hadn't been out of the country. I mean, she went to Guatemala, I think, a couple months back. But anyway, this right there's what I'm telling you. They just keep telling you. Wouldn't make fun of a white guy, would they? Who the hell was Donald Trump? Really? 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 Critical thinker and good friend Rob Eno is in the hot seat. What's going on?
Hey, not much. Just wanted to come and try and save some millennials from themselves.
All right, let's talk about this because we've been talking about critical thinking. You got maps with you. All right, we might have to be using maps here pretty soon. You got the 2021 Road Atlas. They still print that.
They still print. I buy it every year. One of my hobbies is I'm trying to drive through every county in the United States, as you know.
Yeah.
And I'm up to almost 75% of them.
That's amazing.
So I buy a new one every year.
Yeah. Now, everybody should have a map. Don't rely on your GPS on your phone. Why should they have a map?
Well, the Russians have said, I think like 3 or 4 years ago, they shot down a satellite. And they said the reason we're shooting down this satellite is to show you that if you get involved in Ukraine, we're going to shoot down all the GPS satellites, and then you'll have no GPS.
There you go.
So they're looking to do it. And there's been articles in like Ars Technica, that's one of the techie online magazines, that say that they're actually easily hackable. The GPS system, so, it might be a Russian hacker, might be a Chinese hacker, but you need to know how to use a map. There was a study, was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, that said the vast majority of millennials and Gen Z people don't know how to use a paper map. They've never used a paper map because they have it all on their phone, right? Yeah. And it's crazy. And you just, get yourself a compass. I know that Glenn Beck tells us that the Earth's magnet is rotating and they might become useless, but get yourself a compass and get yourself a map book.
Yeah.
And then learn how to use the compass to know which way you're going. Because there's going to be, they make, believe it or not, they make city maps still, too.
They do.
Yeah, you can get a map of a city that's in paper form.
I thought we had come somewhere. I thought we'd gotten far whenever there was MapQuest, and I could print off the map of where I was going to go and keep track by reading actually the signs and the roads and the numbers and all that of where I was. And every now and then you had to pull over and use a payphone. And call somebody. Actually drop a quarter. I remember when payphones were a dime even.
Oh, I do too. I was watching War Games again this weekend because why not watch War Games? Because, we might have global thermonuclear war. And I'm like, I can't imagine a millennial or a Gen Z person watching this movie and trying to figure out what he's doing with this device. Yep. Remember when he hacked the payphone with the paperclip and got it to work? They must just sit there. You and I were both born, I think, right in the middle of Gen X. Yeah. 72, 73, right down the middle. So we learned how to do, I was a nerd, obviously, and I used to get like my parents would, because it was free, would get me the AAA maps for Christmas. Yeah. Right? Because they'd go and get the new ones because I just liked them. I've been a geography nerd since I was a kid. But there's real world implications. You need to know how to get where you're going. So in case they shut it down.
I took, there were some classes I had to take in college, didn't necessarily want to take them. Some of those required that I learn how to read a topographical map. They weren't fun to read those things, reading elevations, understanding, and maybe those aren't, you need to know where you're going. And they don't have compasses in the Cracker Jack box anymore. Remember that old movie 1942 where Hollis Wood, they get him on the Japanese sub and the Cracker Jack, they're lost. They need the compass and they find one in a Cracker Jack box and he swallows it. And so they spend the next hour pouring prune juice down him.
But it goes further, right? Like I was talking to an Army buddy of mine that's in logistics. He's in the National Guard. And I asked him, I said, do they still teach soldiers how to read a map? And I guess they still teach land navigation. That's still part of what they do, but they got rid of the Pathfinder School. Mm-hmm. And the Pathfinder School was basically advanced navigation. They were the people that would go in and establish airports and you need map reading skills to do that. But they've gotten rid of that because they're relying on GPSs now. But what happens when they're gone? And I was thinking that a couple weeks ago. We've got a bunch of millennials here, and I asked them in the office, have you ever use the paper map, and
Right.
they're like, well, I've printed one off from Map. That's not the same.
No, it's
I mean,
not.
MapQuest, and I remember the MapQuest days. I remember the other days, but that's not the same. I mean, if you're in the middle of nowhere, what do you do for the county thing? This is good because the Rand McNally's have county lines, and I can see where I'm going. Yeah, I'll use a GPS to get to the city once I identify it, but I don't need to because I've got the map sitting right next to me, and there's vast places in this country. I mean, I think the other thing is we're such a coastal elite country,
Right.
and you think that when you're sitting in New York or LA or even here in Dallas or Miami, that your phone's always going to work, right? You're always going to have the GPS. That's not the case. You go out in the middle. I mean, you just traveled the entire state of Texas. I mean, you go out in the middle of West Texas. There are parts where you do not. If your car doesn't have the GPS, which is like a $2,000 upgrade, and they get rid of them now, right? Because everybody's got the Android Auto and the Apple CarPlay. So I don't think many cars actually come with in-navigation GPS systems as an option because they just assume you're going to use your thing. But you get in the middle of, you get 50 miles outside of Midland, your phone ain't working.
You are, trust me. Listen, I was in Upton County a couple weeks ago, south of Odessa. Yeah, there's some stretches out there. You're screwed.
Right. So unless you get
it's a long walk if you break down. A long walk. But so when you're traveling around, you're using a map.
I use a paper map all the time.
Yeah.
I just because I want to know where I am. The other thing I do with my GPS that actually drives my dad, who I guess is a boomer crazy.
Yeah.
Is I don't know what you do with your GPS, but I keep it to north.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
I do that too.
Because I
don't
want
like
to
the
know
turnaround
exactly where I am at all times.
Yeah.
And it drives, like, if I'm in a car with millennial folks or Gen Zs, and it's like, which way are you going? I'm like, this is the way the map works.
That's right.
I keep it pegged to north because then I know where I am.
I always keep mine at north. I always keep mine at north. I want to know where north is at all times. I want to know which direction. And I also find myself, if I'm using the phone, I find myself zooming out as far as I can because I like to see the outlying areas. I want to see the cities, the towns. What am I near? What are my reference points? Because your GPS is going to zoom you right in on, like, say, where your vehicle is, and you can see the next mile of road, digital mile. That doesn't tell you anything. In a case of an emergency, something comes, and let's say all of a sudden that thing, boom, you need to know where you are. So,
and that's what I like about the paper map.
Everybody needs to get them a map, all right? Go to mypatriotsupply.com, get you some food, get you some water purification, get you a map, get the book, get the whole thing, and do it.
And go to AAA. Use your AAA membership for something else, besides your car breaking down.
There you go. God, I love you. I love nerds. I'm surrounded by them. Chris, I hadn't decided if Mark's a nerd. I think he might be. Rob, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Don't be a stranger. Hey, y'all hang tight. We'll be right back. Hey, Overtime's going to start off next week, I think. You can sign up at blazetv.com/Chad and use promo code MORECHAD in order to save. You can go to Chad Nude. I discovered that chadnude.com actually gets rejected by Instagram on the story. I think because it says nude. They won't let me post it up there. But chadnude.com, you can use it and use promo code MORECHAD. Make sure you're there. We're going to be there. We're going to be over on that side of the room, though, and it looks really, really good. Chance and Mark and all the guys. Chris made this thing's just a great transformation. So sign up, blazetv.com/Chad. Use promo code MORECHAD. Go to chadonblaze.com. Do a little shopping if you can afford it these days. And of course, watchchad.com is where all the fun stuff is. Let's commit to one another. We're going to do some critical thinking, okay? We're going to ask ourselves every day, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But it makes us a better person if we think about these things. I love you guys. Tomorrow's Tuesday. It's going to be Monday's hangover. We're going to get back into it, so do not miss it. Love you. God bless you. Talk to you then. Bye.